Welcome to another episode of the Clinical Career Collective S.O.A.P News. For those of you who are new to us and our mission, C3 is a professional development community for the mental health professional at large. We are here to support you so that you can learn, advance, and become the clinician the world needs now. You can find us on our website, www.clinicalcareercollective.com, or our YouTube channel, S.O.A.P News. And of course, we're extending an invitation to follow us on our LinkedIn page at Clinical Career Collective. Today's S.O.A.P note is all about Zoom fatigue. This is a serious issue practically all of us have had encountered at some point during the COVID pandemic. And I'm going to explain a little more about how and why it happens, as well as how you and your clients can protect against it. I'm Amity Cooper, your host and creator of the S.O.A.P News. As a trained clinician, I really benefited from applying the S.O.A.P note method in my practice, so when I started C3, I thought it would be a really fun way to craft a blog series that incorporated the same principles as the handy S.O.A.P note. What better way to get updates, tips, inspiration, and reviews about relevant, on-point clinical and business topics affecting our industry today? Zoom, or any conferencing software for that matter, is a must given our current situation of living and working virtually. Even though the world is slowly attempting to go back to a sense of normalcy as we once knew it, our current reality has forever changed our work environment. What we thought to be temporary has dramatically shifted the way we communicate, connect, and do business both in person and online. As with any change, adaptation comes with its upsides and downsides. Some upsides are, we have remote commuting, being able to work in the most comfortable spots in our houses, casual work attire, and the convenience of staying connected without having to venture outside. The downside is remote work, a virtual fusion between personal and work life, and finally, video malaise, especially video conferencing. If you feel guilty for feeling tired from sitting around and staring at your screen all day, do not worry. You may actually be onto something. Jeremy Bailenson, communications professor and founding director of the Virtual Human Interaction Lab, or VHIL, at Stanford University, has researched some possible culprits for your fatigue. According to Professor Bailenson, depending on your monitor size and whether you're using an external monitor that faces on video conferencing calls can appear too large for comfort. When someone's face is that close to ours in real time, our brains interpret it as an intense situation that is either going to lead to mating or to conflict. What happens, in effect, is your mind can't determine what's real or imagined. Therefore, it is constantly operating in a hyper-aroused and defensive state. Furthermore, seeing yourself in video chats constantly makes you more self-conscious of your looks. You notice every pore, every hair that's out of place, which leads to negative emotional consequences that do not bode well for a healthy mindset. Given that there is already a lack of physical movement with these meetings, with a negative mindset and a computer eye strain to deal with, most people would just want to curl up and perhaps snooze all their troubles away. Therefore, prolonged usage of teleconferencing apps can cause increased anxiety and stress. Even though the people you are meeting with are not there with you physically, with the amount of faces peering back at you and watching your every move, it can cause even the most prepared presenter to falter. Video calls over a long period of time inhibit physical movement. This may be okay for short calls, but what about those webinars or classes that are conducted for 6 hours or more? It's unnatural for humans to stare at a screen for an extended period of time without a break. Even when people take a break from work or class, they typically jump straight on their phone or begin watching a TV show. This doesn't provide our brains the real break it needs. Too much stimulation can cause mental fatigue, confusion, and exhaustion. So make sure to incorporate a physical and digital break every 30 minutes. It's critical to recovering energy and motivation. Lastly, a lot of gestures and facial expressions can be lost in translation in video chats. Overnight, our communication styles and habits were brought to the fore. We need to learn new ways of conveying our thoughts, emotions, and digital body language over screen time. Writer Erica Duen, in her new book, Digital Body Language, How to Build Trust and Connection No Matter the Distance, says, quote, "What is implicit in body language now has to be explicit in our digital body language," unquote. Internal automatic thoughts such as, "They're not looking at the screen, am I being boring?" or making additional efforts to like comments, smiling more, using exclamation points, and responding professionally and directly make a huge difference. Plus, you add in the frustrations of tech challenges like network and hardware connectivity issues, it's no wonder that a lot of people report psychological distress from having to work or take classes from home. The good news is that video fatigue is easy to combat. Zoom itself has customizable settings to make sure you are as comfortable as possible. Professor Bailenson recommends the following: taking Zoom or whatever video conferencing tool you use out of the full screen option to reduce the size of the video window relative to the monitor to minimize face size, and use the Hide Self-View button, which one can access by right-clicking their own video once they see their face is framed properly in that video. Some meetings, particularly those that occur in long stretches, do not really need the participants to be on video consistently. Meetings via audio calls with just a visual on screen can make you feel less self-conscious about yourself. In the event that cameras need to be turned on during the duration of the meeting, the organizer should schedule audio and visual breaks into that agenda. In such events, we can position our devices in such a way that it creates distance, much like how it does during face-to-face meetings. It is also important to assess how you feel after the call. How exhausted do you feel? How strained are your eyes? Do you feel like taking a long break and doing nothing afterwards? Knowing the answers to these questions will help you set the right amount of boundaries for video conferencing in the future. You can and should unplug from your devices. The motto, "always on and carry on," is not a wise choice. Science has pointed out that always on doesn't mean always calm. As a practitioner, what daily rituals do you incorporate into your work schedule that clearly define the end of your workday? Maybe it's doing a nightly meditation, gratitude journaling, taking long walks outside to clear your mind. It's necessary to unplug from your work every day. Not only will your body thank you, so will your brain. Establishing a nightly ritual that disengages from technology at least 90 minutes before bed will train your mind to settle down, relax, and recover, making it easier to manage those mental and visual fatigue over the long run. Lastly, if you are interested in learning more about the new and cutting-edge technologies affecting our mental health practices today, then I'd like to invite you to register for our monthly S.O.A.P newsletter. With this subscription, you will receive a monthly review of all of our weekly S.O.A.P notes, gain access to member-only interviews and conversations with special guest speakers, and you will have a chance to purchase our monthly S.O.A.P box that contains products, coupons, and discounts to all of our mentioned items reviewed during the S.O.A.P note recordings. See you next time to your clinical success.